And I think we will conclude by December what a student, fellow, or a young doctor sitting in Pakistan, if they want to do research in basic sciences, in technology or clinical trials, what are the resources? And similarly, if anybody sitting in the United States at any level and they are thinking of helping or doing something in Pakistan, they should have also a resource how to proceed. So I'll give it back to you. Thank you.
जी शाहिद भाई.
Assalamualaikum. Sorry. Thank you, Danish. So basically, I think you already explained the purpose and eloquently that the need that we felt in the past 10, 13 years that APPNA Merit has been doing lectures, live lectures, visiting faculty program, and capacity building programs in Pakistan has led me to believe that we, while those efforts were important and were successful in many cases, we need to also look into the new innovations and technology front that is taking over the healthcare industry. I think we here in West see it more than the developing nations. So obviously Pakistan has such a talent pool of 220 million people. The youth in Pakistan, I think, are no less than any youth in the other parts of the world. Even the physicians, scientists, they are really talented. I think the need of the hour is to develop an infrastructure or a system where they can incubate their ideas, and obviously we are learning. I'm learning, and I'm very excited that we are finding some paths, obviously not all, but some paths into what can be done in Pakistan, and the horizon is big and task is huge. But I think we are taking our baby steps, the initial steps, and hopefully together we'll find and this conference that's going to be in Pakistan on 22nd of December in Rawalpindi Medical University would be very helpful in coming face to face in all those people who have been consistently. I've seen 70, 80 people attending these webinars. I'm sure I would love to meet them in person and learn from them in that conference. And I think so that would be a culmination of our this year's effort of finding the pathways and landscape of research and innovation in healthcare in Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shahid. So, Dr. Ozair, your very quick comment before we continue discussion.
Thank you, Danish. Thank you very much. And I am really so excited to know about the progress. At this point in time, I am in Pakistan and I am visiting many of the places where the active research is going on. And thanks to everybody, we have created so much interest in research. So every week and every month, I receive a lot of calls showing their interest to take the research to Pakistan. Recently, I happened to be contacted by a group, another leading group from UK, and they are doing some research on intranasal vaccines, and they have selected in multi-center trial to Pakistan as well. So that's in the pipelines, and there is a long queue. Today I visited bioequivalence lab here in Lahore, and just day before yesterday they got approval for 4 bioequivalence studies. So things are moving and things are moving fast. So that's the very great news to, and I think that's the effort to this group, Danish and Merit and Babar Rao, Shahid and everybody. The 2021 year was really from different angle was a difficult year, but from some other angle, it was a very interesting year. As we see, there is a long queue of now clinical research going to Pakistan. So that was one of the key objective of APPNA Merit Committee. And at the same time, we are going to give inputs to the medical education, the research pathways, cutting edge technologies, big data. There is a center for the big data. Recently, the National Institute of Health is revamping. So that's just a snapshot. I'm not going to take time. This is just a snapshot what's going on in Pakistan because I'm traveling and I'm in Pakistan in these days. So that's little input and update from Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ozair. So, our first three research webinars were on clinical trials. But before I go to that, I see Dr. Warda Hamid have raised her hand, and I see a question by Dr. Mirza Beg that I would like to take before I go on to our first three webinars theme. But a quick comment before inviting Dr. Warda Hamid, that we are trying to take summaries from each session, and we've been sending it out as 5-minute briefs, which is something that we hope you can read in 5 minutes as a summary of what was the key points from each session. We're also collecting all that information, and we're planning to write a big report at the end of it towards the December conference that can be used towards either developing a white paper or as kind of a boilerplate, a space of resource where you could go to and ask questions like where to go and what to do next, kind of questions where Dr. Mirza Beg has asked that I will address in a few minutes. But let me invite Dr. Warda Hamid first to unmute herself and introduce and make comment or ask their question. Please go ahead, Dr. Hamid.
Thank you so much, Dr. Danish, first of all, for giving me this opportunity to talk right now. I just want to thank you, Dr. Danish, Dr. Shahid, and all the other panelists for their consistent commitment to this project. I mean, it is really important for people like us who don't actually get the opportunity, and it was really amazing. And I especially liked, how empathetic was of the panelists to do that for us. And regarding all these research webinars, I really loved the fact that they were very innovative, and the fact that they were very futuristic as well, like involving the AI project and that, brain structure thing. They were just fascinating. I was so surprised. So it helped me to, expand my, knowledge, and as well as to look into the fields, like, there are so many aspects we can do research about apart from all the basic research we are doing. So I just really want to extend my thank you to all the panelists, and yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Would you like to briefly tell us about yourself?
Yes, sure. So I'm from Allama Iqbal Medical College, and I am recently done with my steps, and due to COVID, I wasn't able to travel. So these projects, they really helped me to get insight into these fields.
Wonderful, thank you. I see one more person's raised hand, but before I come to you, Dr. Tasleem, let me quickly take this question from Dr. Mirza Beg. So Dr. Beg, I have asked that I'm a doctor working in Manchester, and if I have to initiate an international research collaborative project between UK and colleagues in Pakistan, then what is the best contact in Pakistan to facilitate? The domain of the project will be related to renal medicine. Thanks. So there are so many aspects of this question that we have covered in this series so far. So for example, the first question is, who are the local stakeholders as partners? So there is, you can go to the Nephrology Society in Pakistan, you can go to institutions like RMU or Shifa, you can go to research institutions that exist there, like Maroof International Hospital have a research center, the NUMS, National Institute of Medical Science, have research center. You can go to them as your local partners who will be providing patient data. The second question then comes to the study design. We did a whole session on what kind of study designs are easy to implement and get started with. You can do registries, you can do case series, case reports, rare cases. There was even a session on genetics. So there is an opportunity to partner with some of the institutions in Pakistan who have the capacity to do novel gene analysis for something that you find which is very unique and rare, to publish that and even have ways to send and receive sample. There is, of course, resources available at NIH that we went through, National Institute of Health. And then we also talked about what are the funding sources or mechanism that might be available within Pakistan that can help it. So HEC has funding sources available. NIH now have funding sources available. Then the HEC has collaborative grants from USAID and other sources. And then we also talked about local industry partnership, that what industries in Pakistan can help support project with commercialization potential that can also be explored. The next question comes in terms of regulation. If you're doing a trial that requires regulation, then what kind of challenges or resources might be out there? We have partners from DRAP in our setting here. There have been revamp in 2019 of new regulations for DRAP for facilitating the clinical trials. So if you want to do either new indication testing for old drugs, repurposing, which is a very growing area of interest of studying the drugs for other indications, or you can design a completely new study, either phase 1, or you can bring in a phase 2 or phase 3 study with clinical sites in Pakistan. And we talked about on some sessions on CROs or contract research organizations that can help facilitate identifying sites, do regulatory approvals for you, do record keeping, training of the local sites investigator, facilitating them. So there are so many aspects that goes to a question like this, that how do you start collaborative international research project that we have covered, and we are happy to provide those resources. Our 5-minute briefs have summaries of it, and we'll be happy to provide more of it. So I think Dr. Shahid has something to add before I go to Dr. Tasleem. Shahid bhai, please go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say if I heard correctly, if it is related to nephrology, APPNA Merit has a very robust nephrology subcommittee, which has people from Pakistan and US and I think UK. A group like this is more conducive for research or international research because, like I said, although you are, Pakistan has such a vast talent pool, but due to, lack of infrastructure, which is getting better rapidly, but when there is an international collaboration with Pakistani scientists in nephrology, I think that would bring more benefit to your effort. So I would invite you to join APPNA Merit Nephrology group subcommittee and meet all these and all the Pakistan Society of Nephrology leadership is in there. And Awais Masood is the lead from here. And I know personally, it's a very vibrant group of nephrologists all across the globe from Pakistani origin. Thank you.
Thank you, Shahid. So yeah, those are additional resources. Merit have subspecialty committees in many of the subspecialties who have a very vibrant team here, and they have a very strong connections and network within that subspecialty in Pakistan. So Merit Nephrology Committee, chaired by Dr. Awais Masood, have been doing a weekly nephrology trainees webinar for the last almost a year now, and those are actually available on our YouTube channel, and they go on long sessions. And then I forgot to mention there is also a resource of NIH Fogarty grant. We talked about that a little bit briefly, where you have funding mechanisms for doing research, collaborative research with US investigators, by funding from NIH for international projects. Let me welcome a very dear friend and advisor and mentor, Professor Dr. Shehzad Khan, Vice Chancellor of Health Services Academy, who has been an old friend, and we have met many times and had the pleasure of getting his guidance to the session, and invite him for his comments and welcoming introduction. Dr. Shehzad, unmute yourself. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess. Thank you, and sorry for being late. I was actually driving through, and it was quite a rush post Eid in Pakistan. So everybody's on the street, less corona, less positive cases, vaccination going on, and people are already, they were carefree today, but they were more carefree. Before moving on to the discussion, you were mentioning about what can we do in Pakistan. So I had written something in the chat box as well. Health Sciences Academy, the organization which I'm heading, I was the dean of this academy for the last some years, professor. Recently, around 2 months ago, I joined as a vice chancellor here because Professor Asad Hafiz, he left for WHO post. He moved to the UN, and I was a senior most faculty, and I was given this charge. When it comes to research specifically in Pakistan and somebody who has linkages internationally, I think being in Islamabad and being a center of, you can say, a lot of trials and studies of the international level, HSA is well suited, and we are moving on, and we are now expanding our network nationally as well as internationally. Nationally, if you see, I have got almost all the provincial health sciences academy, which are the provincial in-service training institutes, mostly government sector, connected with the government health departments as a partner institute of Health Sciences Academy. So if anyone is interested in doing research in Pakistan, he or she will definitely require a broader or a national level body through which you can go to every province. So Health Sciences Academy, after devolution, was suffering some of the disconnect with the provinces, because in post-devolution scenario, provinces were all the units of you can say service delivery, as well as all policy and everything was at the provincial level. So we reached out as an autonomous body. We are not under the direct control of the government of Pakistan. We are actually having a role of a higher education institute, sort of a university. So we have signed MOUs as well as partnership agreements with a lot of national and international partnerships. Number two, we are a grantee of USAID, which makes us quite an attractive, you can say, partner for national as well as international research when it comes to Canada, USA and UK, because within our agreement, and we have a G2G agreement, the government to government agreement with the government of USA. So where Washington and Islamabad, they sign a deal, the money is coming through Economic Affairs Division. So this funding is for research and capacity building of various institutes in Pakistan. It's not just for HSA. WHO, World Health Organization, Geneva headquarters, has labeled Health Sciences Academy as a mentoring institute for research on a lot of things, like a lot of areas like MNCH, like social health protection, like you can say this mother and newborn sort of cohort studies. There are some disability sort of assistive technology studies, disability studies. So we are partner to WHO in many areas, and all the organizations in Pakistan, if they work with us in a partnership with Health Sciences Academy, they can have access to not only those funds, but also a lot of technical support, which is there in the form of a lot of WHO consultants and our own network of, we call it a think tank. Health Sciences Academy hosts a think tank of very high level national and international resource person, consultants and teachers, academicians and researchers. Shahid Bhai was here in Pakistan in RMU conference, and we discussed a lot of things. At that time, Asad was vice chancellor, I was the dean. But now when I saw Shahid, I thought of a lot of things which APPNA Merit was doing with us, and now we can do more. Actually, so it's just been my first month, but to just tell everybody who is listening, Health Sciences Academy is, although it's public health, but in COVID, we moved into 2 or 3 very, very important clinical things. One was we came to know in the COVID scenario that the intensive care in this country is very pathetic. It's almost non-existent. So other than a few other than a few private hospitals and I think 1 or 2 public sector hospitals, there was a huge issue in every district headquarter hospital, in every big hospital. So Asian Development Bank funded Health Sciences Academy, and we got hold of a very high level intensivists, very highly qualified people who were trained in US, UK, and then came to Pakistan. I will not name all of them, but we made a group of those consultants and we traveled to almost all the districts of Pakistan, and 10,000 people were not people, 10,000 doctors and nurses were trained inside an ICU for intensive care, for ventilators, and all of these COVID-related things. But they are now available for any other emergency. Number 2 was the frontline workers. We also trained them. And there is another need. There was another need because Pakistan is moving towards a health insurance model. Very late in the century, but still we are moving towards a social health protection model. It was only for the poor, but now Imran Khan has upscaled it to a universal level. So we don't call it universal health coverage, but social health protection will be provided to every citizen of Pakistan. So KP has done it. Punjab, I am leading the initiative for 110 million people in Punjab who will be enrolled in the same program, and the cap of that program, yearly cap, will be 1 million. So Health Sciences Academy is available for all of these kind of public health research, clinical, family medicine is our priority. We have started a diploma in family medicine. We already have a PhD in public health, MPhil in public health, health economics. So I just wanted to inform all of my colleagues listening to me. And recently I joined this group of Canada-Pakistan research sort of forum. So Ozair is here, and I'm going to meet him soon in the next week as well. And I'm also sort of maybe coming to some of the universities in Canada and USA, because USAID has enabled us and funding. They are funding us to develop a formal linkage with a US or Canada university for research and for capacity building, faculty exchange. And I think that is a great opportunity. Let's utilize whatever resource they give to us, and then among ourselves we can exchange, and we don't need any other foreign funding for other things. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very comprehensive and useful. Let me also recognize Dr. Abdul Rasheed, who has so kindly also shared his contact. Dr. Abdul Rasheed is the chairman, Clinical Studies Committee at Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan.
Yeah. He's a good friend, yes.
In attendance here, and I'm really thankful and grateful for him joining again, and also very grateful that he gave all of his contacts out for anyone to reach out to him for his guidance and support.
He's a very generous man. He's a very generous man.
So
okay.
One comment that I saw in the chat box was that people are asking about our previous webinars. All of them recordings are available in our YouTube channel from APPNA Merit. And we will see if we can make all the 5-minute brief summaries also available on our website in an easy to find way, so that you can find them quickly and go through the summaries in the past for this. I see many other worthy names in our audience today. One of my personal friend and mentor, Professor Akhtar Shireen, I see him, who has done wonderful work in research and promoting new medical journals and developing new medical journals. So I'm really grateful that he joined. I'm going to, before further discussion, let me go ahead and invite Dr. Samia Tasleem, who have raised her hand, to introduce herself, make her comment, or ask her question. Please unmute yourself, Dr. Tasleem. You're welcome, Salam.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Samia. I'm PhD in microbiology and working specialized field working in the pharmaceutical microbiology. I won the DICE Innovation Award for development of one product in 2016. I'm the expert for different clinical research and innovation product in health. So I need to certain collaboration for APPNA Merit to develop the innovative product in Pakistan, to control the high price range for the medicine and healthcare products. And I follow the APPNA Merit since start of the year. The lot of learning activity and upgrade the knowledge for polish the knowledge through this webinar. These webinars are very important to the joint learning for the joint effort for each other and develop to consortium for the plan to the new health innovation policies to the Pakistani university.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I see a hand raised by Dr. Muhammad. Please unmute yourself and introduce yourself and make your comment. And I also see our good friend, Dr. Minhaj Kidwai, who has developed a center for innovation in healthcare and research. So please also share your contact details, Dr. Kidwai, in the chat box for people to be able to reach out to you and connect with you and work with you. I see some other people also sharing their contacts. Will be great if you can share your contacts in the email. If you have resources for people to reach out to you and connect with you and work together, that'll be wonderful. Let me quickly just go through some of our initial initial webinars as we continue to have discussions about it. You know, when we started with this idea of clinical research in Pakistan, the first thing that came to our mind was the idea of clinical trials. And clinical trial is where you take a drug or a compound that either already exists on the market for something else, or completely de novo compound, and then you try to prove that it has an efficiency for a particular indication. So there is before human trials, there is animal studies and a lot of lab work that goes on. After discovering a candidate agent, it takes about 10 to 15 years just doing that lab work in animal studies to look at it for a new compound. That you can cut that down if the compound is already in the market, and that's why repurposing a drug for a new indication is also much more easier to get into, less resource intense. If it's a new compound, then you often start with a phase 1 trial where you are testing that the drug is safe to try in humans in a very small number of people, usually 10 or plus minus 5, so anywhere 5 to 15. Then you go to phase 2, where you try to find out what's the right dose or concentration for that drug to be used in patients. And now you have a bigger population, usually anywhere from 50 to 100, and you're doing usually 3 or 4 or 5 arms of the study to test different doses to see what will be the right dose for that drug. And then phase 3 is where you actually then confirm the efficiency of the selected dose or doses in a large enough population, which is typically anywhere from 200 to 1,000 or more, depending on the incidence of benefits or amount of benefit that you're trying to see. Many of these drug developments are industry funded, meaning that somebody has patented that drug or copyrighted it and is trying to fund the development of proof of concept so they can commercialize it. So there are 2 aspects to it that we have discussed in the past. In our webinars 1, 2, and 3, we talked about clinical trials in Pakistan and challenges with it. And one of the things that helps with that is that you can take a third party to help you guide through the whole process, which are typically called CROs or contract research organization. And they specialize in developing all the tools and resources needed in-house to help you run the study. So running the study includes writing a proper protocol, getting the protocol approved by the regulatory authorities that this is the right way to study it, and define all the side effects and things like that. Then training the investigators, selecting the clinical sites, making sure the clinical sites have all the appropriate resources for lab testing, for drug storage, for dose testing, for blinding, for measuring side effects with EKG or pulmonology or breath testing and so on and so forth. And then they have to make sure that all the documentation is being maintained for regulatory purposes and also for analysis purposes. And they also make sure that the blinding is being maintained. They do queries for any issues that are not clear. So if you saw a patient, you didn't document something right, then it's their job to double check it, quality control, come back and say, okay, Phil, please explain this query. You did not document this, or it was not documented in the right way, or didn't make sense. So they keep checking, and there are monitoring visits where they're monitoring your site that you are compliant with all with the protocol, and then they have to notify if there is any protocol violation, and they have to keep an eye on that. They also help with IRB, getting ethical and institutional review board approvals. They also help with eventual regulatory filing and so on and so forth. They don't have to do all of it, but they can do as much of it as possible. So we had these first sessions where we invited the multinational CROs, the 3 multinational CROs in Pakistan, to talk about resources they have, trials they have done. We learned that there have been, dozens of trials that have been conducted recently in Pakistan in many different subspecialties. And then, of course, a lot of discussion was on the COVID trial that was recently completed. Let me invite Dr. Ozair, if he is available, for a quick comment on the landscape of clinical trial, especially we talked about a possibility that if we invite partners, multinational trials for phase 2B and phase 3 studies, then we have many benefits. We have a benefit that we get an early access to the drug. We get benefit that we learn by working with them. How do you do these things, so that we build capacity within Pakistan, so we can do things nationally our own for new drug development. We also develop a reputation and credibility of our clinical sites and our investigators, and we also get funding to build stuff and equipment. So for example, if you are participating in a phase 3 trial and they require you to have certain equipment like EKG machines or other things like that, they will often have funding for those machines and spaces and coordinators for you to be able to buy them for their trial, and then you can keep them for other trials in the future. And a lot of clinical sites in the US build themselves and their resources by participating in these kind of phase 3 trials. Dr. Ozair.
Thank you, Danish. I feel we are creating a difference in Pakistani landscape. As we started, we invited all the CROs and the people who have some interest, and we were developing the partnership and the interest. And we see a lot of activity in this regard. There are certain issues, and we need to move to the regulatory part of it and also the policy part of it. So I'm approaching from the policy perspective, and I see some changes in the policy as well, because I'm very frank and to share with you, because there are many biosimilar which are being packed in Pakistan without any clinical trials. So these are the drug substance, we call it, which is equivalent to active pharmaceutical ingredient. And particularly about the biological, you all know that these are a very complicated protein products, and they have 4 type of structure, and without having a complete knowledge of their effect on the local population, these are not like the pharmaceuticals. So we have Dr. Abdul Rasheed with us, and we need to make it a point, because the industry is very resistant to have any such move. So from the regulatory perspective, we need to articulate this thing very strongly, because these are our people, this is our community, and we should make it a point that nothing is going, straightforward. And the people, we have Dr. Khurshid Iqbal here among the participants, who was the lead scientist in developing J&J erythropoietin, and he knows the real link of the regulator with the quality, because our population, they trust the regulatory body that whatever product is granted a registration, it's a good quality product, but so far there is no mechanism really. So you can bring anything like the drug substance, which means the active pharmaceutical ingredient in shape of biological, and start filling without any clinical trial, which is not fair at all, because the not knowing is something different. And I'm going to see some of the real policymaker next week, and I'm going to articulate this point. And we have Dr. Khurshid Iqbal. I think he's the champion of biological, and we can request him to share his experience from North American market. So I will request you to please invite Dr. Khurshid Iqbal to share his view, because he was among the inventor for many biological. So he can share really the missing link and what we are missing really in Pakistan. We have to protect the community. So I'll request, please invite Dr. Khurshid Iqbal to share his viewpoint and the FDA perspective on this.
Dr.
Khurshid
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yeah.
please unmute yourself and go ahead. Dr. Iqbal, please unmute yourself. Okay, while we're waiting for Dr. Iqbal to connect the audio, I again, continuing this discussion, our fourth webinar was on genetic research and translation in clinical trials in Pakistan. There are various aspects to it. The one important thing that I often hear, I was talking with a neurologist in Tennessee yesterday who trained in PIMS in Pakistan, internal medicine, decades ago. He was telling me that he was training with Professor Saleem, who's currently president of Pakistan Study of Neurology. But one of the things he also highlighted was that there is so much genetic diseases or conditions in Pakistan that we don't see anywhere else. And we need to understand them and study them for our own population, but also as part of a scientific endeavor for the genetic research itself. I think we have Dr. Iqbal. Before I talk about genetics more, let me invite Dr. Iqbal.
Thank you, the forum, and Ozair, thank you very much. I hope you are enjoying your time in Pakistan. This is a very important topic that Dr. Ozair brought, and you should know that about 40% of all of these new products are protein-based. Some of them are recombinant proteins, and some of them are others. And he's right, because right now, there's a difference between small molecule and protein products as far as the generic drugs are concerned. And I think most of you know that these products, which are protein-based or recombinant-based, technology-based, are called biosimilars. They do not have an ANDA like small molecules because they are not necessarily substituted like a small molecule. So in this case, he's right that you have to show the structural similarity and bioactivity of these molecules to be able to substitute a brand name with another. And these are called biosimilars rather than ANDA products, which can be substituted simply on the basis of their chemical structure. In this case, you need more than that. You really need to compare these on the basis of their potency and structure, and sometimes even bioavailability and many other factors. So this should be kept in mind. And I think we are at a point where we should put more emphasis on getting these alternative products approved in Pakistan, and should have a forum where people should be able to evaluate these rather than just changing from one product to another.
Thank you, Dr. Iqbal. Quick question I see is from Dr. Najaf Khoja. He's saying that he's interested in intensive care clinical trials in the context of COVID-19 and also ventilation protective strategies. Dr. Khoja, Professor Shehzad Khan will be a great resource for that. He has access to the COVID-19 work going on nationally and can work with you on those kind of ideas through HSA. And then if you send an email to appnamerit@gmail.com, we can connect you with the pulmonary critical care subcommittee of APPNA Merit, who are looking at some ICU projects and quality improvement projects, at least at state level, but also some education at national level. Professor Shehzad, you have a comment? Please go ahead.
Yeah, when it comes to critical care training, we have a very high level resource in the form of CPSP, the College of Physicians and Surgeons certified trainers in Pakistan, all over Pakistan. So what we did was we took those supervisors who are actually supervising the fellowship exams and all the trainings in Pakistan. Just to name, the head of the Pakistan Medical Commission, Ashar Taqi Saab was with us, General Aslam was with us, General Shahab Naqvi, who was commanding the Armed Forces Institute of Cardiology. So they were with us, Madhya Naqvi from Karachi. We have a lot of data, a lot of connections, and a lot of people who can work in this kind of topic. So I have shared my WhatsApp as well as my email. So like you said, it's more than welcome. And we are now planning a short course and a lot of small level, instead of fellowships, an annual or a 2 years course in HSA for critical care. General Aslam and Shahab Naqvi will take care of that. So that is another thing going on. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So continuing with our discussions on the webinars, a couple of quick points on genetics before moving on. There are genetic labs in Pakistan who do good genetic research. We shared those resources in the webinar. You can partner with them, and if you have identified a family or a patient who have some unique presentation, you can partner with them. If we have identified rare genetic patients in Pakistan, that will allow us to partner for multinational rare genetics trial. A lot of genetic therapies are being developed and tested, but finding rare patients is very hard. So there is often a multinational network that invites genetically proven patients to participate in those early clinical trials. There is also probably a need for a national genetic database for researchers and also for available resources of genetic labs, and probably a national organization for rare diseases, NORD, that this kind of a pattern exists here in the United States that allows rare diseases which have only few patients here and there to collaborate and have enough patients available for a large national clinical trial or clinical study or strategy development. So that will be another thing pertinent to the genetics, and the genetics going to be future. A lot of investment will go on into genetics in future. Our fifth research webinar was on grant writing and funding mechanism by Dr. Bhatti, Junaid Bhatti, who is an excellent senior data scientist at Center of Excellence in Underwriting. And he talked a lot about various funding resources, ways of requesting funding. I think that's one of the weaknesses for most researchers, that they have good skills in doing research, but they don't have a good skill in proposing their research to a funding resource. So, people who have the money, they are usually are required to be, they have fiduciary duty to spend that money wisely. They don't want to just give it to you because you say you have a good idea. So you have to convince them and convince some independent reviewers that your idea is really good. And that's a skill, that's an art, that's a process that you need to learn. And even in America, that's how it works. 1 out of 3 applications get funded in good centers, in good places. So that is something you have to develop. You have to go through this process. And sometimes it takes a year and a half of writing a good grant before you get funded. In our 7th research webinar, we talked about healthcare research in Pakistan in terms of COVID-19. There's a lot that have been said, but we do have experts here, Professor Shehzad Khan, Dr. Ozair, who really know inside and out, and Dr. Abdul Rasheed, who can answer any specific question, research related to COVID-19. Our 8th webinar talked about artificial intelligence enabled computer-aided diagnostic. That's another big area of focus for Western world. That's a big area of focus for APPNA Merit. We recently launched our Merit subcommittee on artificial intelligence under Professor Sarwat Hussain, who is a radiologist and vice chair of radiology at Harvard. And he has a pretty good committee trying to develop some resources for AI. Artificial intelligence, there are 2 advantages for Pakistan in jumping on this bandwagon. The first advantage is that you can leapfrog. You don't have to, for many other things like clinical trials, you have to go through the sequence that US or other Western countries went through over the last 20, 30, 40 years to develop all those resources one by one. For something like artificial intelligence, the equipment and the human resource is very easy. You just need a good idea and good data. And so that is, you can bypass a lot of hurdles by going into an AI-based research. And you are also on equal footing against competitors in across the world. So you don't have any disadvantage of being from a developing country or a lower resource constrained country. The other advantage is that there will be a lot of investment in artificial intelligence in healthcare. So a lot of time in North America, in US, for example, even if we haven't developed the product, we are willing to buy it from someone who has developed it. So a lot of good things are bought from other countries. Small countries like Singapore, small countries like Israel sells a lot of IP, intellectual property, to North America because we have a much bigger market, and then we market it after establishing credibility and confirmation to the rest of the world back as a finished product. So there is a big potential for something like this, that there will be a lot of investment coming into it. We have some ideas. The easiest thing to talk about is computer-aided diagnostics, such as on imaging analysis, whether it be radiological images or skin images. Let me actually invite Professor Babar Rao, if he's available, to make some comments of his work in Pakistan on AI, or his thoughts or suggestions for AI work in Pakistan.
Thank you, Danish. I was shocked, like, oh, suddenly I have to speak, but that's okay. So there is a lot of AI work in clinical images in skin. There are like 2 or 3 apps, which some developed in Singapore, some in US, where they'll take images of your face, 3 images, and then actually give you a customized product for your wrinkle or pigmentation or acne scar. And that's already happening. So in reference to diagnosing skin lesions, good from bad, doctors are not accepting that yet because it could be dangerous. But in reference to managing skin condition cosmetically, it's already on in US, so it's already working. In reference to what can be done in Pakistan, again, I'm working with mostly RMU, and they have a lot of data. So basically, we are trying to collect images and then maybe use an AI program. Either we work with a nurse there, or we work with some engineers here, but we are collecting a lot of data, images wise, from RMU. And in their skin clinic, I'm sure same in King Edward, they see 550 patients a day. So if you spend like a month there collecting images, you already have thousands of images to do any project. So it's in progress. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see a question raised by one of our merit committee member, Dr. Maria Morton, who is the chair of merit subcommittee for cardiology and also chair for the APCNA, the Cardiac Society of North America. I think Dr. Abdul Rasheed might be a good person to answer this particular question and make his comments about COVID-19 cardiac related studies or any other COVID-19 research. Dr. Saab, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like to mention that in Karachi, one of the private hospital, before the owner was in America. He has started his Taba Heart Center. His site has been approved by Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan, and his study is under process. And that study is for the COVID-19 regarding cardiac-related medicines or drugs. So that is a separate clinical trial site, which they are interested to start the research work on COVID regarding cardiac medicines. So any person in America or UK or Germany, they can contact with them. I can give you the email address and also the contact number, and they can jointly research work on cardiac medicines during COVID-19. There was one question: how many trials and what research work is going to be carried out in Pakistan regarding COVID-19? I want to mention, and I request all the research workers, that in Pakistan, in Dow University, Karachi, we have approved the one study that is phase 1-2 IVIG studies. That is published in international journals. But Dr. Shaukat, who is the main principal investigator of that study, he is collaborating and working with also the Pakistan Air Force. But practically, he is feeling difficulty in financial matters, because initially his study, he conducted the research work IVIG for phase 1 or phase 2 for 50 patients. For phase 3 studies, he have to recruit 215 subjects. He don't have the resources. Yesterday I talked to him. he wants to help from Health Services Academy. He wants the help from World Health Organization. Even he talked to Dr. Shokar, talked to Faisal Sultan, SAPM, Pakistan, that individually I can't do, university cannot do anything more. So please help him. So this is a big achievement, that this will be the first vaccine in Pakistan that will be invented in Pakistan, because his phase 1-2 studies has been completed and it has been published in international journals, and phase 3 is under process. I hope that inshallah with your support, this IVIG study phase 3 will be completed, and that will be the first vaccine that will be registered in Pakistan in COVID-19. Moreover, in Pakistan, regarding clinical trials in COVID, we have approved the Sinopharm vaccines, that is market, that is emergency use utilization authorization has been given by the DRAP. And also we have approved the CanSino vaccine in phase 3 trials, and also the Sinopharm phase 1, which is not has been completed, but phase 3 studies Sinopharm has been completed in Pakistan and other countries. As far as other clinical trials are concerned, I will mention the Aga Khan University Karachi, HJ Center Karachi University Karachi, Do University Karachi, and also the must mention the name of Professor Javed Akram, University of Health Sciences. They are doing a lot on clinical trials in COVID vaccines, also the medicines used in clinical trials in COVID-19. So there are many clinical trials going to be conducted in Pakistan on vaccines, also on medicines. And particularly that I have mentioned that Taba Heart University, the clinical trials is going on cardiac diseases. This is from my side, but I will request all the scientists, either from Merit APPNA or any other institutions, that if they are interested to work clinical research work either in medical devices, either in herbal medicines, either in allopathic medicines, blood and blood products, in vaccine biological sera, the all guidelines, that is biostudy rules 2018, they are available on DRAP website, that's dra.gov.pk. They can personally contact through me. I have given my email, I have given my WhatsApp number. Any scientist who's interested in Pakistan to jointly conduct the clinical trials on any of the therapeutic goods. In Pakistan, we call it therapeutic goods. It includes all the allopathic and other things. So this is from my side. I must ensure you from regulatory aspects that the Vienna Pharmacy Services under the Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan, being a chairman of the clinical study in Pakistan, you need any information, you need any regulation, you need any support, because in Pakistan we have the clinical trial sites approved, that is 60, and clinical studies we have approved 32. 4 bioequivalence centers are approved, 2 are under process, and bioanalytical labs are also approved. 9 contract research organizations approved in Pakistan. We are giving training to the all CROs, bioequivalence centers, clinical trial sites on 27th of this month by the Safar Khan Niazi, is a pharmacist in America. With the support of USAID, USP, we are going to train our scientists in Pakistan, and which have already approved their sites. So again, I will request all the scientists that please start joint research work in Pakistan and start the innovative products. In Pakistan, I have approved 2 locally manufactured ventilators in Pakistan, and they have been given the authorization to be used in government hospitals and private hospitals in Pakistan. Also, I must mention the NUST, National University of Science and Technology. They have locally manufactured the stents, catheters, and also the ventilators they have manufactured. So again, I will request all, because you need any help, I will give the full detail of the all clinical trial sites, CROs, bioplant centers, or bioanalytical labs. If you need any help, we will give you the connection. We will work as a bridge between you people and the clinical trial sites approved in Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abdul Rasheed, the Chairman, Clinical Studies Committee at DRAP. It's so wonderful and refreshing to see the regulatory authorities working with the scientists, guiding us on how to do the things right. We want to be compliant. We want to be doing things right and be honest and trustworthy. So we appreciate the guidance and support. Let me invite our panelist, Dr. Ali Java, who has just joined us. And I have learned that Dr. Java have recently done a lot of work on bioequivalence study, which is another hot topic, an area of focus and research in Pakistan. So Dr. Java, please introduce yourself briefly and tell us about your recent work.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I am Ali Java. I am an American board certified endocrinologist. Have been here in Pakistan since 2005. I have been in the academics till 2017 when I left Shaheed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto Medical University, Islamabad as a tenure track professor. At this point, I am fully focused on bioequivalence studies. Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan had approved Olive Biocenter as the BE center last year. And we have submitted and recently got approval for 4 bioequivalence studies. We have a mandate for at least 20 studies to be completed in the next 1 year. So we are very excited and looking forward to getting more studies, and we have the capacity, will, and desire to conduct more because it's something that's very close to my heart. I feel that research is the way to go, and BE studies are a classic way, which is a multidisciplinary research in which both pharmacists, statisticians, as well as clinical side is covered in one place. So again, this is something very close to my heart, and I am very grateful to the colleagues, the friends, the support that I've got, both from the pharmacist community, doctor community, as well as the regulatory bodies such as Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan.
Thank you, Dr. Java. And if you can kindly, or maybe Dr. Ozair can share a way to reach out to you for someone who wants to collaborate or partner or learn from you, that will be wonderful if there is a way to reach out to you. Thank you for your time. So I think we're running over time, and we've only gone halfway through our presentations, but we covered the first 9, which were the earliest ones that we did, and maybe we didn't have a good recollection, or some of you didn't attend those. Just quickly listing the other ones that we will not have a time to talk about today. We talked about device studies, brain chip interface. Human trials are probably technically challenging in Pakistan, but there is a lot of animal research needs there are for this new evolving era of brains and chips and leads interfaces. We talked about HEC's healthcare research reform agenda. We talked about NIH, present and future, their directions, their new format and structure that they're developing. We talked about device innovation and stents. Dr. Abdul Rasheed kindly mentioned the NUST Institute, innovative technologies which are working on stent development and catheter development in Pakistan. There were sessions on collaborative research publications with students and trainees from Pakistan, a model of publishing together, and also how to be a clinical researchers and available resources from Dr. Hasni from NIH Center on Neuromuscular Diseases. And then there was most recently a session by Professor Sarwat Hussain, the chair of our AI committee on artificial intelligence for non-experts and what can be done. So I'm going to wrap it up here, and I welcome you all to reach out to us with questions, comments, ideas, network with each other. You can reach out to us at apnamerit@gmail.com. We can invite you as a panelist on a session. We can invite you as a speaker if you have something that you would like to talk about. We will be reaching out to some of you, and we have already reached out to many of you to share your expertise, share your ideas with us. And we look forward to your collaboration for our international conference in December on research. So with that, thank you so much, everyone, and please have a nice day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.